Okay, thank you members of the public and members. We'll make a start. Can we receive, at the beginning. Due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, a resolution is asked to be passed by the members for the public to be excluded from the meeting under the Public Bodies Act of 1960 and the following item, which is 15031, ongoing defamation. Can I have a propose and a second for that, please?
I'll propose it.
I'll second it.
Is that approved, members?
Against.
Well, how many for them, please? Show of hands. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5?
Once again.
How many do you have to have a show of hands? 1, 2, 3, vote, 4. Alright, I'll vote for it, 5. And as the chairman has a second vote, then that's the 6.
If it involves you, do you not get a vote?
Yeah, prejudicial interest.
Correct.
Could we record the votes against, please, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, could we have the votes against it, please?
Record.
5.
Could I ask the clerk to record the names of the votes, please?
Yes, could you put your hands up again, please? So we can vote on it.
Right, can I receive apologies for absence? And just the one, isn't it?
Yes, I'm sorry, Martin and Watson. And there was also an apology from Phil Yerby and Carol Paternoster, who may be late.
For councillors to declare a personal and or prejudicial interest to the items on the agenda.
Chair, I think there's a letter in correspondence reference to the RB there. I'll declare an interest on it.
I'm sorry, could you...
Is there a letter from the British Legion?
Yes,
Declare an interest.
yes.
The minutes of the Parish Council held on the 7th of January have been circulated. Are they a true copy, members?
Did you have a declared interest in anything then, or was that just passed over?
No, I didn't. I don't have nothing to declare.
Well, aren't you part of the closed session?
But
So you had to declare an interest in that?
that is to discuss procedure.
Well, surely you've got an interest.
You're to do with the libel, aren't you? The defamation
Well,
thing.
So therefore it's a declared interest, surely.
only the manner in which it's being dealt with in the Parish Council, the procedure, not the actual details of it.
Well, I think that's...
You still have an interest in that.
yeah, of course you've got an interest in it. How can you participate in something you're involved in?
You shouldn't even be allowed to vote on it.
Well,
Do you not have an interest in 15025, Mr. Chairman?
2-5. Well, yes, I declare an interest in that, and if I have an interest, it doesn't feel like the rest of the council does as well. Right, apologies. Oh yes, okay. The minutes of the meeting of the 7th of January. Members, is that a true record? Yeah. Can we have a proposal and second then, please? Colin, Jean, Joe. Okay, thank you. I'll sign that. Public participation. Members of the public to ask questions, raise issues on items included on the agenda, items not included on the agenda, require decisions to be made, may be included for the next agenda.
Yes, could you explain why you're not got prejudicial interest in the defamation, please? Because I didn't understand your answer.
Well, the answer is, the question was on the procedure the council was adopting, not on the contents.
Well, sorry, that's not what the agenda item says. It says the council notes the statements made in the letter to ABDC on the 14th of October were written in a personal capacity and are not endorsed by Aston Parish Council. How is that procedural?
That is actually procedure, yes.
I have to say that I am astonished by that that interpretation. I don't think there's a person in this room who doesn't believe you don't have an interest in 15031.
Thank you. Your comments are noted.
But ignored, as normal.
Yes. Yes, public participation, yes. You have 15 minutes of this. Go on, Keith.
I have a question. I attended the recent meeting of the Subject Committee of the Standards Committee and sat through most of it, and I had the entire report, including the bundles of evidence. There's clear reference to the fact that you continued with a legal dispute despite being twice advised that you had little prospect of success. Please advise us when you're going to apologise to the community for leading the parish into wasting some £80,000 of public, our money, especially at a time when our resources really ought to be going towards fighting rampant developers who are taking over our village. And secondly, do you really not think you should offer your resignation after such a public condemnation of your behaviour by the committee?
Did you read the final
I have seen the thing, I've read the thing, and I heard the whole attitude.
And what does the last piece of it say with regards to?
Blame everybody else, are you?
Not blame it, we're a corporate body.
That is entirely wrong. You misled the councils in print.
No.
You gave the wrong direction in print. You twice ignored evidence in print. I'm sorry, sir, it's true. I'm sorry I'm sounding angry on this, but that is in print.
Can I just say, you received an email from, the councillors received an email from Clare Hill urging caution to vote against ratification, and the votes were recorded. We've all got a copy of the minutes from that closed session, and I fail to see why. I mean, there was a lot of sarcastic comments in the information pack, the evidence pack, from various councillors. They'd heard councillors say, oh, don't bother sending it me, I won't bother reading it, etc., etc. But I fail to see why, at the end of the day, 6 councillors voted with you against ratification, and I just don't know how they were led into that situation. I understand you found it personal, and you got involved, because you did. But I can't understand how the others went along with you. None of them read anything. They can't have done, otherwise they wouldn't have allowed themselves to be swayed. And if I'm saying things that are wrong, I don't apologise, because this is how you once asked why I came to the meetings, and it's because I'm angry that it went so badly wrong. Even I, with my dim brain, read the notes. I saw the paperwork. I saw the statements from 2003 when they tried to do the change of deeds or whatever it was. I just cannot believe that you've all led us down this path. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry if I've upset a few people. I'm sorry, but I really am cross. There you go.
Well, I mean, what was actually said at that meeting, and I don't know
I've got a copy of all the documents, I've read it, so I do know, and I've reread it.
Yeah. If you'll bear with me, if you read what on the heads of agreement, which was actually read out at that meeting, and actually Councillor Watson actually repeated it, and he said, yes, Councillor Maskell signed it, and this is the heads of agreement, and shaken hands on it, when it was sent round to the councillors, and the majority of them were unwilling to sign it. Still, they took the view that we own the land. We own the land. The problem was the majority of the village people who lived here all their lives knew that the stream had been used by the
Yeah,
village
yeah,
and could not
okay.
accept the legal
But
advice.
This is where they went.
Mr. Chairman.
Can I caution at this point
Okay.
against any further discussion on this matter, Mr. Chairman, because I think we would open ourselves up to a legal challenge if we continue.
Yeah. But anyhow,
My question
Yeah.
still stands. Are you going to apologise for throwing away 80 grand, and when are you going to resign? I'm sorry, sir, but I need to be direct.
well, I've apologised several times on this matter.
What, not to us you haven't?
I
Losing
have-
all our money?
No, on the matter of it. But as I say, it's not hiding actually behind it. We are a corporate body. I tried actually, with regards to that, 7 councillors voted against it.
Well, then the Standards Committee found you
Yeah, because they
misled.
didn't read the deeds. Even I've seen the deeds from Aston Park when it was sold to the council in 1972. It stated that was never part of the
You don't
park.
need to answer
No,
that, Mr. Chairman.
No,
Right.
I've read what was actually in the public domain there and at a public meeting, so there we are.
So you feel comfortable remaining where you are, with all that cloud above you?
No, not at all. I've apologised several times. I've actually shook hands with appeals at the end of that last meeting.
But that's not us, that's not our money.
When are you going
You've
to
not
apologise to the
apologised
village?
to us, the people.
Well, as I just read out, that I've apologised already twice
To who?
to the appeals.
What
But we
about
just
the
ran
village?
on after the
Well,
village.
do you
It's us
consider
for
that?
The rate
paying
payers.
extra
Do
money.
you consider that it was solely my decision, all of it?
Yes.
Yes, the
You've been found guilty.
responsibility,
So-
you
so-
as a chairman, the responsibility ends with you.
Well, there we are.
No.
No.
Answer.
Answer
Well,
If you take on the responsibility, you've got to go with it.
well, if you, as the public, think that I solely was responsible for that, then I will apologise.
Well, we do.
We do,
Well,
and put it on the
then I've
website for
apologised. And I've
everybody to see.
apologised for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We've got
Poor leadership.
But it's got to be trained in that, apparently.
That is
Yes,
on the
Ralph.
agenda.
I have something completely different if people don't mind. I don't want to distract them from the subject, but it's planning and 22 New Road, and I hope the council has rejected this application, because if it goes through, it's not just 5 houses, it'll probably be more like 25 houses, because the developer's already indicated that if he's allowed to go into behind 22, I'll get the numbers right, but 22A, there's access further along to go behind other houses. And it might even be, there was at one point, they were going to try and go on my side of the road through the rectory. So what I'm saying is I mean, I don't know what decisions you've made.
Well, I'll stop you there, Ralph. The Collins on
Joe's got it.
Oh,
This
Joe.
is on the committee meeting. We've already objected to it.
You already objected.
Yeah.
Well, then I can say thank you very much. But I am concerned, you know, it's not
Yeah, we've
just
objected to that.
5 houses, it's
30 others.
25 houses.
Yes.
The
Yes,
the
just
road
one more
waste
then.
we've
Yes,
objected
on
to.
that note, I think some of you were at the TAC-free public meeting we had last Tuesday, when we were trying to raise funds for our various actions we were bringing against the houses that are being built in Brook Street. I just wondered if, and I appreciate you probably can't answer the question right now, whether the parish council would be able to support that fighting fund. We are getting some money in gradually. People in the village are very kindly donating money to our cause. But we do need a lot of money if we're going to start fighting some legal actions against some of the decisions made. And other parish councils in the past have contributed. So it's really to ask whether you consider it. And obviously I'm not expecting an answer now, but appreciate it if you could consider it and possibly raise a sum of money, reasonable sum of money, appreciating the financial restraints the council now has.
Yes, I mean, at that meeting we did subscribe to the Wendover Hamden Field subscription.
I know you did, yeah.
Yeah, and it can go to the Finance Committee to see if we can do the same for Aston Clinton.
I've got one more question. Council minutes notes aren't up to date on the website.
And I partly beg to differ.
I couldn't find the December one.
That might be your problem.
Yeah, I've had a look, I had a look on both the
I couldn't find
the up-to-date one as well, where it's, you know, you said go on to the other page. I did that and I still can't find it.
What were you looking for?
Well, December one.
Well, the
December
December's one
14.
wouldn't be on the other page because it deals
Yeah,
with
I know, I've
2015.
not found it on either one. It went to November, there's nothing up to
Okay,
November.
I may be guilty of not having posted it, forgive me.
But we've got a clerk, shouldn't she be doing that?
No,
I'm not
no,
trying
No,
to say it's your fault.
We had a firm agreement that for the early months of Jill's tenure, I would deal with the internal money and I would deal with the website. And we had a plan in place for both activities to be inherited by Jill when she gets some time.
Yeah, but they're
Right,
still not on there.
but I'm doing the website, and if the December one should be up there and they're not, that's my fault, I apologise.
And the other question was, Facilities Committee's put a draft minutes up on the site. Why can't we have a draft of the council meeting?
Why have we put ours up early?
You put the draft up,
Draft
yeah.
minutes.
But
Just
why
because
can't we see
they-
a draft on
just-
the meeting that we're attending tonight?
The draft minutes of the Facilities Committee had been approved by email by all members of
Ah, I
the
see, so
Facilities
you-
Committee. So it was felt they could go up as draft ahead of the formal
Right.
agreement. The minutes of the January Parish Council meeting have only just been approved 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, but you
They
can't
may
put a
now
draft.
go up on the website tomorrow.
Yeah, you can't put a draft up prior to approval.
Not, I don't think, for
You
the
can,
full
No, I don't know.
you can,
That's
but you
been a
don't have to.
No,
Okay.
but there are only five members of the
You're
facilities.
not obliged to.
Yeah, no, but I'm on about the main council, because what I'd like to see is a draft, because some of the things, after we read them, they're not a true reflection of the meeting. And you can't query it once you've said, yes, they're right. So I believe there should be a draft copy on the council notice board prior to the meeting, so people can question it.
Well, the council can consider that at the moment.
Fair point.
Right, thank you.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry, I know we've got it. But we've seen the notice about the hub on the notice board outside, and I just wondered what the process was going to be for appointing new
We're
tenants.
going to be talking about
We
that.
discussed,
There's
it'll
a
be
full
on the
update.
agenda,
There's
yes.
a full update.
Yes,
And how are you going to ask the community for their views?
well,
I'll be giving you a
that's
full
on the
update.
agenda as well.
Give us a full
Yeah, I've got a-
Fine,
I've got about
okay.
3 pages worth, Ralph.
Thank you. Sorry,
Yes.
I'll shut up then.
It's going to be a long night.
Yeah, afraid so.
Just
Um,
one thing, it might be trivial, but how comes the seats are getting less and less in here? Is it to deter the public from attending?
well,
No.
Because there used to be a lot more in here, and I
Yes,
remember
'cause-
having to all stand all cramped in here, where are the chairs
yes,
gone?
yeah, because I used to carry them in from the hub, and the hub's not open yet. Yes, another job of the chairman, you see.
Caretaker.
Even though it's a chair, it's not delegated very well.
That's it, exactly. Well said. Matters arising then, the Santa's float distribution of monies. Jill, I think it was 800 and...
Yes, £294.16 has gone each to the Scouts, the Guides and the Ian Rennie Hospice, and they've all written to thank us.
And
Can I
also,
ask a question, Mr Chairman?
yes,
How was this money distributed?
well, there was a cheque sent to each one,
Signed by
me,
single signature?
because at the time I'm the only one who could sign it.
Could you just perhaps answer the question? It was single signature.
It was, yes. Right.
Am I right that the bank rejected a cheque earlier this year for £10,000 because it's single signature? Am I also right that Christine made it quite clear at a meeting not long ago that it's illegal? And also that financial regulations for the Parish Council do not allow single signature cheques?
The only reason that single signature was because I hadn't signed it with my middle initial, that's all.
But it was still the single signature.
Because at the time that's what we were doing, that's for how the Parish Council was operating.
We have got to stop single signature cheques.
Well, we've done that actually.
No, we haven't. We've just issued 3 with single
Yes,
signatures.
but what we've done, and it's been taken a while, we've actually changed the bank mandate.
I note the bank mandate wasn't changed while Angela was here.
Well, anyhow, it's been changed now.
Has it come through yet, Sir Jill?
Oh, there we are.
There we are.
I signed, I changed mine, I think, well before Christmas.
I'll chase it up, Councillor Plowman.
Thank you.
Right, that's all on the float, is it? Oh, not only to thank the councillors who, Paul, Joe and Martin, who's not here, who took the active part in that. Unfortunately, and Tony, yes. Sorry, yeah. Unfortunately, I was unable to walk around at that time, and it wasn't through alcohol. Chairman's report. On the 21st of January I attended the local area forum, and this has come up before, and it was on the agenda. The park at the end of Brook Street, Aston Clinton, with the London Road. We've tried to address this problem for some while because of the view to the right, and unfortunately what we suggested has been rejected in the past, but now I had a meeting with Paul Hodson, and I put some suggestions to him, and they're going to actively now action that, and which is really needed when you consider if the developments go ahead in Brook Street, we're going to have a lot more traffic coming out onto the main road. They're also going to have a look at the parking situation around the village school. I've no idea what they can suggest with that, but they promised me they're going to have a look at it. It was brought up at the last Parish Council meeting by a member of the public, reporting that on the 23rd of December 2014, AVDC Planning approved an outline planning permission for a power plant at College Road North, at its junction with the A41. Apparently we weren't notified of that, and it went through. It was approved. I've had a word with the owner, or not the owner of it, the company that have an option for the development of that land, and they were approached last September with regards to this power plant. They rejected it, they didn't want it, but even so the company went ahead and applied for online planning permission and got it. I learned too from my inquiries that apparently you can apply for online planning permission for other people's property.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So there we are.
But that's what you say you have to sell. You won't get but they can come to you and say,
Yeah. Right. Right, could we have the clerk's report too?
Yes, this has been a very busy month in the parish office with lots going on. On the positive side, we now have a new facilities committee who are proactively looking after the park and the allotments and the football club and so on. And the hub, which is reverting back to its original name of the pavilion, at least for now. We've had masses of inquiries about the pavilion. And I know Councillor Savigal will talk more on this later on as to the process that will be followed with that. But we feel that exciting times now lie ahead for that. Sticking with the positives for the moment, as you know, there will be a parish election in May. I'm currently investigating the time frame for this, and I hope to have the information on the website soon. The deadline for delivery of nomination papers is the 9th of April. Anyone would like to stand as a parish councillor? On a not so positive note, my workload, which was already fairly sizable, has increased substantially over the past several weeks. I get at least 50 emails a day and at least 5 that should be, callers every day coming to the office. And I do a 20-hour week. So it's for this reason that unfortunately I've had to limit visitors to appointments only. If you do need to come and see me, please do email me for an appointment. At the moment, the office answer machine doesn't always record very clearly. I can't hear the messages, so I need to look into that, but I do respond to emails. Appointments, please, at least for the time being.
Any questions for the clerk, members? Correspondence received then, please.
Yes, I went on a minute-taking and agendas course yesterday, and this is the way they said. This is the way they said to do it, which was to put it all in a nice folder with a tick list, so that I pass it between the councillors, and you tick it when you've read it, and pass it on to the next person. So that's what I've done. But I'll just summarise. There is an application, well, it's registering an interest from the Scouts who would like a permanent home. There are 3 letters of thank you for the donations. There is a request from the Aston Clinton branch of the British Legion to use the parish meeting room for their meetings, and they're prepared to pay a fee for that. There's a request from the Wendover Community Library for a donation. There was an invitation from a grants officer from AVDC for us to apply for a grant, but it's for a specific thing, which escapes me at this exact moment. It was at the lunch club, wasn't it? That one. Yeah, that was the lunch club. There's an interesting letter from a man from America who's trying to trace his ancestors, if anybody would like to take that up. And then there's a couple of things from the Chiltern Society about pathways. It's not exactly clear which organisation is dealing with that at the moment. Who would like it first?
Well, unfortunately, lunch and pub is closed.
It has closed
Because of lack of support, but we couldn't get enough people to go along, and it was down to 7, so we finished at Christmas. It's a shame, but it was, yes, it was. We couldn't afford to keep going. We had a grant, but it's still impossible. But we're making more of the old friends now, which is once a month. So they'll all go along on a Tuesday once a month, and we're making it more exciting, and we're going to call it the Friendship Club, which we think is better than old friends. But it was with great sadness that after,
This is some funding that can be applied for. I don't know if that's a bit of a...
Mine was saying
it's too late now.
only 7 people were coming to
Yes, and we just couldn't have. We tried really hard to keep it going, and it just, there's not enough. This really, I don't know an area or what, but there's just not enough people want that now. They can go to the pub or they go out and, you know, it's my age really, used to go along, but I don't want it.
This isn't to do now, this is to do with actual
pass it from
pleasure.
one to another in due course, yeah.
So what are we doing? Just look at
The way we do it.
yeah, so thank you, Jane, but no.
There's a comment box.
Okay, that's all on correspondence, is it?
What about, sorry,
Yes.
what about the woods, Wendover Woods?
Yes, that is here. You're quite
Not
right.
Wendover Woods, the Cobbler's Pits, yeah. I phoned you to ask you to be
Yes,
put on the agenda.
that is here.
Okay.
Yes, would you like to speak on that?
It's just that, and Bill's here as well, so he can reinforce this, that the Chiltern Society has taken over the the Cobbler's Pits Woods, which are behind me, which go down to the canal, on a 99-year lease. So they're going to be managing it and clearing it, and hopefully make it more accessible to people. So they seem very positive about it, and I think you're quite happy, Bill, about that, weren't you? Sorry.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
You're quite happy about that? Yes.
Cobbler's
Cobbler's
Pits
Pits.
being handed over to Beebond, is it?
Yeah. No,
Children's
Society.
Society.
And there's a sort of, David Lawrence is in charge of managing it, and we've walked the woods with him, and they've told us what they'll be doing.
I'm a member of the Children's Society Volunteers, and they're very, very keen. It's a large group, and
Yeah, they are.
they'll do it very, very well.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
And are we bringing the lamppost in on this?
That's a bit further down actually, because
Okay.
it's financial.
Okay.
But I've got some figures on there.
Okay, thanks. Thank
Right, then we move on to the report and recommendations of AVDC Standards Committee.
Apparently I'm required to speak on this, and the advice I've been given is I don't have to read out the whole thing, so I'm going to praise what the report that I was sent. The Standards Hearings Subcommittee met on January the 19th to consider the findings of an investigation with regard to a complaint brought against Councillor Maskell by Professor and Mrs Peel in April of 2013. The complaint detailed activity over an 18-month period as it related to a boundary dispute and itemised 37 allegations of unethical conduct by Councillor Maskell. The entire report can be found on the AVDC website. I'm only required to read out a summary of the decisions. It was found that Councillor Maskell had conducted himself in a manner which was likely to bring the council into disrepute. There were 5 reasons given for this. It was also found that Councillor Maskell had failed to provide leadership to the parish council by personal example, had failed to take decisions for a good or substantial reason, and had failed to pay due regard to advice from the parish clerk as an officer of parish council, and there were 8 reasons given for this. Moving on to the recommendations of the subcommittee are, and this is in summary: 1, that further training in governance and collective responsibility be undertaken by Councillor Maskell, and 2, that such training should also be undertaken by other members of Aston Clinton Parish Council. Councillor Paternoster has further clarified to me that this second one would only apply to councillors that were in office during the 18 months to April 2013.
Is that all that you need to do on this?
That's my summary. I've got what I was sent, but the councillors have all received the full report. We've all had that circulated.
So what's the action to be taken about that then, now it's been designated?
That's for you,
It's up for
ladies and gentlemen, to decide.
for the councillors themselves.
I believe there's a motion on the table.
But, well, that's for the clerk to organise, isn't it, I believe, the training.
Okay, I believe that it's not compulsory,
It's not compulsory, though.
so there is a motion on the table, Mr Chairman. And I would suggest that you take the motion into the first and the second recommendation. But I can't bring the motion.
Well, the motion is that the council notes and recommends
Notes the recommendation.
recommendations of the AVDC Standards Committee.
I would like to propose that motion, Mr Chairman.
And I'll second it.
Right, thank you. Right.
Vote?
Well, yes, yes, yes.
We should do.
Yeah.
Which is this, for or against?
For against.
Four.
For the motion you just...
Have we got how many in favour? 1, 2,
Well, I'll see clarification.
Is there anybody against?
1, 2, 3. One abstention, is it?
I'm sorry, can I just say something? Would it be all right if I said something, Mr.
Yes, by all
Chairman?
means.
Can I just say 2 things about these recommendations? The first one is what the findings of this committee have found. If any other person in public office had been found wanting those areas, I think they probably would have resigned out of decency. And the other thing is that the recommendation that the councillors undertake training, I think would be a waste of our money. I think we should wait until we have new councillors in May and use our money to train new councillors. That's my personal feeling.
Just a point of clarification, I'm not disagreeing with what you say. We haven't said that we have accepted the recommendations, we have noted.
Noted them.
That's a very different thing.
Okay. But that's what they're recommending.
Yes, but we've noted it. We have not accepted it.
I don't want any money to be spent on
Yeah, but
waste. It's much better to
Yes.
train new councillors.
I'm making the point that if it would have been, I wouldn't have seconded a motion that said that we accepted it.
In response to what you've suggested, did you read the actions recommended by the subcommittee?
I've read here all the things that they have found you wanting, and if I were you, I'd be highly embarrassed.
No, I'm not highly embarrassed, because if you read the recommendation,
I'm not sure.
That's just my comment. I
well,
wanted to...
thank you very much. Your comments noted. And I would have suggested that you read that out, and I'm surprised the clerk can read that out.
I'm happy to read out any parts that anybody would like to hear.
Can we move on, Mr. Chairman?
Finance and staff.
The Finance and Staffing Committee did not meet a week ago for a variety of reasons. I didn't think it was enough on the agenda, frankly, to cause us to meet. So I have circulated in paper form the necessary information to councillors. I apologise, it's only come at the meeting that my printer and scanner failed on me, and I had no other option. Just looking at the general statements, we're still £31,500, which is, I think, rather better than I might have expected at this point. I wouldn't like to say I'm pleased with that amount, but it's not bad. Income still pathetically small. No income from the hub for, 6 months, I think. So that's nearly £5,000, I'm saying right. We could have done that. Monthly reconciliation is just proving that the figures add up. Finance is to be agreed at this meeting. I've listed at the top there 2, 4, 6 payments that went out the bank account. These are not on the January list, but they have gone out for various reasons. The next set, which don't have a date against them, are the ones that we're seeking approval for at this meeting. I draw your interest particularly to the second up from the bottom, Thames Water. The invoice actually says water supply at Youth Club, and it's a bit mind-blowing. So if you see my note 2, it requires further investigation. I have absolutely no idea what this relates to. I don't know. I think sometimes the youth club is used as a term for the whole parish council. I don't even think the youth club are metered for water. So how the hell that could...
They are metered.
Oh,
yeah, they are metered. And what happened here was there was a leak out there under the manhole, and it was down to the hub.
Oh, like they're going to pay.
No, that's right.
When was that then?
Well, we are going back probably 6 months ago at least, and the invoice originally came in to the youth club, and they rejected it, of course, and because the leak was actually in the where the meters are.
I'm surprised we're ready to find out about that now, I've got to be honest.
That was investigated by the I don't know which clerk we had at the time then, I thought it was Claire.
And the meters deemed to be under our jurisdiction. I thought they were the water board's jurisdiction, the meters.
No, they're the meters for the 3 premises, yeah.
Well, yeah, what I mean is normally a water supply comes after the meter, so it's the responsibility of Thames Water until the outlet of the meter. It's not our responsibility, or whoever you deem to be responsible, it's Thames Water's responsibility if the leak is found to be at the meter.
Well, I didn't actually see the actual leak, but that's where the leak was, in the
So
manhole.
have we a report from someone saying where this leak was?
Well, we'll have to go back to...
Because that's totally challengeable if it's
well,
at
Colin,
the
I
meter.
mean, they've got youth club water water leak, somebody's fixed it. I mean,
No,
is
that's
that a different
that's
thing?
inside the property.
Yeah,
Oh, that's-
I
I
think
beg
that's
your
something
pardon.
different. Yeah, that's something.
But I mean, that's a prodigious amount.
Yeah, that's when it's a result of the bill. If the leak is deemed to be on
Yeah,
Thames
no,
Water side, it's down to.
So we need
yeah,
to look
that's
into
we
it.
need to look into.
Well,
that.
yes, you need to look into it, but it was already, we were aware of it. The bill of first of all went to the youth club, and then it was decided, I believe, that it was pub.
So, just taking this further then, can Jill, sorry, can you put this on, can we sort of have a copy of this bill or the correspondence as to deeming as to where this leak, well, that's what I really want to know is where was this leak?
Yeah.
Because that is absolutely vital as to who pays the wretched bill.
Doesn't the Bowls Club have got,
They've got a meter.
they've got a meter which comes off the youth club, doesn't it?
No.
Don't they? Well, it did at one point. They deducted one from the other and it's got a water supply. At one point they did, definitely.
So what you're saying, that could be part Bowls Club?
Well, yes, but I don't think it, well, that was how it was always done.
Colin suggests we need to see the paperwork. And
Well, yeah.
Yes, we do. I mean, and it does go back. This bill goes back more than 6 months.
Yeah, I do actually remember.
Yeah, so, somewhere we've got to find a bit of paperwork that Thames Water sent us and said it's our responsibility, or someone's responsibility, not theirs, in other words.
And the hub comes off of there, and the changing room comes off the thing, but in the pit there's all these clocks.
That's the meters, that's the meters.
Yeah, all these different ones.
Somebody fixed it. Is there a bill? Does that bill include the repair, or is that something else?
That I don't know. This is quite old. The whole thing is very old.
But it's a bit, I think it's quite confusing.
Yeah, to say the least.
Can
we
stick
I'll
sorry,
have to
Jill,
look into
I know
it,
you
yeah.
will, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's before my time, but I'll
Yeah.
see what paperwork
If you
there
can
is.
just dig up whatever paper we got from Thames Water, maybe the Creative Facilities Committee, if it comes our way, we can.
What, you mean mitigate?
Yeah, we can have a go at Thames Water and see what's going on.
The original bills are about here. The original documents are.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything else on?
Well, no. We perhaps formally need. Perhaps I could ask if we could formally note the 6th January payments and approve the payments to be made in their second list, apart from the Thames Water one.
Yeah, that sounds.
If I must, may I propose that?
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I have. You'll see my note 1. I offer apologies here, but the 3 items listed there, which were put on the January list for approval, I put the wrong figures up. I put VAT exclusive, and it should have been VAT inclusive. So
Okay.
I'm afraid the figures that were paid were in the right-hand column there.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine.
Right. Bear with me a second. We still don't seem to have resolved the issue of mowing. I've been in correspondence with AVDC the last day or two, and I will need to push this a bit further. So that's still a bit of an uncertainty for the future. It does seem like we are going to get stung with a chunk of money. So even if AVDC take it on, because the quote AVDC have had from their contractors was more than Bucks County Council are handing over.
More than their allocation.
Yeah, so we will be paying some money. It's a bit odd because this referred to a letter in November, and there was then a meeting at Green Park in December, which I was planning to go to but couldn't. And I've heard nothing. There were a lot of parishes who seemed to have concerns over what AVDC were offering, and we have had absolutely nothing since. So I'll chase that one up.
Do we know what their, when you say the quote, do we know what basis or regularity the tender was sent out on? Do we know that?
I haven't got that information at hand, Colin.
Okay.
The figures that were circulated, how much we would receive if we took it on, and how much it would reduce in the following. About
yes,
20%.
I just wondered what it's obviously important what if it's quote for every week.
And we agreed to go along with AVDC's offer to manage the whole lot.
We agreed in principle. We were still lacking some concrete figures.
Oh no, we haven't. We never got any figures from AVDC. We were waiting for those. There was also an option too of not actually doing anything, and Bucks County Council would continue, but probably only instead of cutting the grass 10 times a year, it would be 6.
The other thing I wanted to comment on, and members I think will be probably acutely aware of the amount of time Jill is spending on Aston Parish Council business. Your emails coming from Jill at 7:30 this morning rather typify the pressure she's under, and I feel we should recognise you know, the effort she's putting in on our behalf at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to note that, and I hope others will support that.
Yeah.
That's
Make
it.
sure that goes on the minutes then, Jill.
Following our internal audit, you were going to write, Jeff, to the auditor.
You are,
about that.
yeah.
What
Correct.
was the result?
I haven't read the auditors yet.
Okay.
This was looking to get the money back from the internal auditors for doing such a rubbish job.
Well, it was the internal auditors.
Sorry?
It was the internal auditors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be on our wish list for this year.
So you haven't written to them?
I haven't. I have yet to do.
So
perhaps I would make one other comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman. We submitted a VAT refund request, a month or two back. Nothing's happened. You know, the VAT office seemed to be just closed for the year.
Yeah, it takes time. It's time of year.
Well, yeah, the trouble is, you know, we could submit another claim.
Oh, we should.
No, it's hardly worth it. We're not going to get it by the end of March. We simply won't.
That's bureaucracy.
Yes, go on.
I'm not sure whether the hub pay business rates or not.
I have no idea.
I don't think they did.
You don't think they did?
That's not a positive, it's I don't think they did.
I just think we should just make sure, because obviously we don't want to have to pay them because the building's empty at the moment.
Phone call to AVDC, I can do
Yeah,
that.
I think if you and Jeff could. Because if the building's empty, we wouldn't have to pay them anymore.
We don't have to take the roof off it.
But parish councils are exempt.
I wish I hadn't asked the question. I think given the answers that I've just been given, I think I want to unanswer that question.
No, it's a good question.
It sounds awfully dodgy.
No, it's not, it's right.
No, it's not right. It's not at all right.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Oh yeah.
We were assessed not full rates.
No, I'll leave it there.
Is that all on finance then, or have we approved the payment list?
Have you got the bills there? You haven't got the bills answered. No.
They're in the office.
I just wonder what we're paying for mowing and equipment maintenance in December for. Once we approved it.
No, it hasn't been approved. It's down for approval.
Yeah, but who actually asked them to do something?
I think, to be fair, I certainly remember one or two things on the invoice, and it's to do with a chunk of overwintering, so antifreeze and stuff like that. It looked kosher, if I may say.
If you say so.
Okay, thank you, members. Planning, please. Report and recommendations of the planning committee.
Colin, I think you'd better do that.
Yeah, we've got a couple of the
I have there for you, Colin.
Thank you very much.
With my uses.
Yeah.
No, you went to
Right. First of all, yeah, there were three of us, Joe, myself, and John Watson. We have asked, and she's kindly accepted as Elizabeth Blake is going to assist the plan committee as a non-council advisor on any legal matters that may arise. Her offer was accepted, was both nominated by myself, seconded by Hornbill, and therefore carried unanimously. Okay, so that's the first thing. We've already touched on the 5 houses at London New Road, 22 and 22A New Road. I don't know if you've all seen this, I'm assuming most of you have. It was an application to knock a garage down that sort of bordered between the 2 houses and give further access to the back. to put up 5 dwellings. We sort of talked around this quite a lot, really. There was quite a lot of thought about it, whether we approved or disapproved, and talked to Mr. Phil Yerby about it as well. It's slightly different, we felt, than a mass application from a greenfield site. So it caused a little bit more angst than we normally have, I think. Possibly without all this, we might have been more in favour of it. But of course, with all the building going on, it chose us to not go with it, really. Especially, although we understand they wanted 5 houses in there, we'd sort of be looking at 2 or 3 if we approved of it. But we cannot, unfortunately, put that sort of restriction on any complaint or any objection that you either object or you approve. You can't approve and say, well, we quite like this, but only if you put 2 there, which makes it more difficult for us. You've either got to go one way or the other. And then, of course, someone else also mentioned it gives access to the backs of all other people's houses. But, of course, these are residents and parishioners of Aston Clinton. So to a certain extent, you know, it's their life, their house, their land. To a certain extent, you've got to give a little bit more, I think, leeway to something like that than when it's an outside developer putting 40 or 90 whatever houses on a great big open site that no one in the village wants. However, just to really tell you what we thought about, so we don't just look at these things, oh, we're not having that, put the line through it. So we do talk around it. And as I said initially, we probably felt in favour of it, didn't we? And then after talking more and discussing the implications and everything else, we came against it. So that's what we've done. And I hope that explains to the public how we don't just tick the box and, you know, so we did have a good look at that and a good chat about that. Move on now to the 30 dwellings to the rear of New Road. This is, I can't remember the name of the close, Stratford Close. I presume you've all seen, most of you have seen Western Road, yeah. Stratford Close is off the side, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't know where most people have seen all this. Again, it's, I think it's by the brewery who own that. They're the ones that want to develop that, that land.
Yeah. Punch taverns.
Yeah, Punch taverns, that's right. These are the people who want to develop that. So, I mean, this one was a lot less difficult to come to a decision over that, in the sense we don't want that. Again, you start to run into problems like you always do when you oppose these things. It's so easy for them to ignore general comments about things, but the parish council, as you well know, don't have really much say in this as to whether these things go forward or not. We can only put our recommendations forward, but we don't like it. It's more greenland disappearing yet again in the village. And that road is quite busy along there. It's a bit of, as you all know, that with the bumps, and the access and egress from there is difficult because they've got parked cars right at the side. But again, I'm sure they'll sort that out, so we can oppose that, which we've done. Again, that's all I can say. We're not in favour of that. We've also looked in quite a lot of detail, as we said on the back here. Yeah, I don't know if any of you have looked at it, but there's a lot of 2.5-storey houses on there, on that plot. And the size of those, if you look at a normal 2-storey house with a chimney, so that's talking 3-4 foot above a ridge line, that is where the top of the roof started on the 2.5 stories. It was way above, so we thought, we'll object to that as well. But again, I don't think that holds much weight. That's what's called reserve matters. So when they get the approval, if they get it, then you can attack them on that sort of side of things, where we can't have a 2.5 metre, 2.5 dwelling, because it is so tall, and nothing around there is that high. Of course, apart from that small block of flats on the corner, about a little bit further closer into the garage, which I think are 3-storey, but then it's still dwarf that as well. So that's again, you can read what we've put it out there. You can see what we said. So we've objected to that. And then the last one that came up was the anaerobic digester again. Carol's done that. I don't know if you've all seen this. Carol Pasnos has done a great letter about that. And we've also seen, I don't know if you've got that one, Joe, from the AVDC planning officer who's involved in this. And he or she put up quite a detailed they haven't objected to it going there, But they've objected on all sorts of things as to the height of the chimneys and where it is on the site. And the fact that it doesn't conform to the original planning agreement that they granted Arla. And this firm is different. It's Elco or something like that.
Yes, I went to their
So
meeting
it's
last night.
not actually Arla. So they seem to have been putting this in without really knowing what the original qualifications were for the buildings on that plant. The original Arla thing had at the back corner there was their maintenance plant, and that had something like a 10.5 odd metre high roof line, and they were asked, and they did agree, as part of the planning agreement was that had to be reduced, I think, to 8.5 metres. Now these things are going in, I think, 15 to 20 metres. And they're not in the middle, they're at the outside. So they're much more, visible, and there's no increase on the bund height or the planning. So there's been lots of objections put in by Carol and by this officer, although they don't, it's sort of strange. He doesn't disagree with the planning, but he disagrees about all the things they're going to do in there. So he's pretty much, to me, after reading it all, he said, we don't mind the digester going there, but not like you've got it designed. So how that's going to pan out, I have no idea. We will be sending a formal objection to that by the Parish Council. I will be sending mine. And that's about it. And also, of course, there's those 3 houses out there as well that are very close to that corner. I don't think they're in our parish, although we...
What,
I'm not sure.
the Buckman Road?
Yeah, you'd be surprised our parish sort of disappears in the corner there, and a little blob. I'm not sure who's that. I think that might be Buckland.
It is Buckland.
Yeah, it is,
And Buckland have objected to it as well.
Oh yes, there was a meeting with Arla last night, which I attended, and all the objections you were suggesting, including one that you shouldn't have an anaerobic digester within the 250 metres of a private house.
There's something like that. This is meant to be close to 150 metres, this
Yes,
one, or something.
that's right, yes.
One. And also the footpath, the towpath and the canal is designated, it's got some designation, it's not outstanding natural beauty, but it's got something like, I can't quite remember what it is, and because of this designation you have to have, decent views or obscurity from new development, stuff like that. It doesn't conform to that either. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Okay? I think that was it, Jim.
I think so.
We talked around,
Yeah.
pretty much summed it all up. So we are trying, okay? And it is difficult, and John will say as well, getting the stuff. We don't get it all now, we don't get the plans. You really always have to hunt for it as a parish council, which doesn't help at all. It's not as if they notify us before you see it on any other website. They don't. Yeah.
Feedback on Brook Street and College Road, although we actually know the outcome, don't we?
Yes. Was this the 47? The 90. This is the 91. Yes. Well, yeah.
Inspector.
Yes. No, we went to the planning committee, and it was a 5-4 vote on that. Liz knows a lot more about that than I do, or as much as I do. Probably
Well, as much as you do, because you were there as well.
Yeah. We all did our bit. Most of it. I can't say too much, Liz, about this, because you've got to be very careful about what you say. In terms, but if any of you were at that meeting, then please send in to Patrick their recollection of that meeting. I can't say much more than that.
Well, what you can say, but what we're
Okay,
looking at
let's
doing-
because I'm not. You can go a bit closer to the line, I can.
Can't say too much.
No.
Too much detail. But what we are looking at is asking people to write in with their views of that meeting, and we're keeping those for any potential possible legal reviews at a future date. We are looking at the whole thing as to whether it was conducted properly or not, and reflections from people who were there, which we've had quite a few, and they will be very consistent. Will be very useful.
Okay.
To ask that potential challenge.
Great. Yep. So that's, and the last bit is the neighbourhood plan, which has been my sort of,
Forte?
Yes, forte from the start. It's just humongous, the amount of stuff you have to assimilate before you even start doing a neighbourhood plan. But we're sort of finally getting there. I've had maps from Jill kindly, and Jean's helped me with that, which has to designate the parish boundary And you have to start off with this to ABDC to say, here's our boundary, nothing to, is that okay? But in further reading, you have to have a planning team, neighbourhood planning team, okay? So I've started to do that, and it can't just be a council thing, and it can't be a negative. You can't have 5 protesters having a neighbourhood plan if you don't want anything. So I've, with John Watson as well, we 2 of us have gone on to that, if you like, team. And when you read all the blurb about this, you have to have, as I say, positive people. So we've had to, well not had to, but we've chosen, it's going to be approved or not by the planning committee, but we think it'll be okay. We've got a local builder, Colin Lane, so he's on the positive side in the sense that he's looking to, you know, for purposes not for negative, so he's on there. Liz has come along kindly, so we've got yet another person from the village who has got legal, so it's again, it's a little bit of a team, you know, just to show different sorts of people on the committee. I've asked Mr. Mason, who is, point taken, but he, yes, I'll put a note up there as a friend, but he has, he's got 2 strings to his bow, because he lives in the village, but he's a landowner in the village. So again, we have to have plus and negative. Is anyone else, if anyone objects to that, I'm okay with that, we can choose somebody else.
Okay, he's lovely.
That's fine, okay.
That's fine.
I'm running out of this, but it's going to be that, oh, and Alec from, is Alec around?
Behind you. He's behind you.
He's behind me, okay. And Alec as well, who's been here, has communications and the facility to, you know, access all parts of the village sort of thing, if you see what I mean. So that's going to be the planning team, if you like, towards the neighbourhood plan. Now all that team does is organised, but we don't come to any, you know, decisions on our own. And the big thing we have discussed, and we know we're going to have to do, we've got to get professional help on this. It is too much of a task. If anyone here has read the Winslow neighbourhood plan, my God, it's 54 pages, I think, of detail as to how far the nearest wood is from the centre of the road. It is amazing. So it has to be done by a planning team. But planners, being as they are, they don't mind what side of the fence they're on. As long as you're paying them, they're quite happy to put a neighbourhood plan together for you to prevent anybody else building on your land or building where you want them to build. So we're going to get in some people, get some quotes as to a commercial, if you like, neighbourhood plan. Now these people will come along, guide you as to what you need to do, and depending on how much support we get from the parish council, but more or less the parishioners, which can do the legwork, which would be, you know, surveys, putting stuff in through there, about getting opinions and all that sort of stuff. That will lower our bill. We have put it in a precept, as Jeff did earlier on, so we have applied to that for APDC. And hopefully by the end of this week, or beginning of next week, I will be able to, now I've got the team named, and I can designate on the appropriate map. That is enough now for me to send that off to ABDC, and that is the start of the neighbourhood plan. And it takes a few weeks to come up, but at least we've now started the process. Okay?
Well done.
That's it.
Thank you. And received an email today from Bucks County Council, so they're willing to help. So
Yes, I've sort of downloaded that one, kept that one as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, so there we are. Is that all on planning?
Can I just, you did say Bucks County Council?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, they're sort of, yeah, you get bits and pieces from all sorts of people. And unfortunately, the lady that came to give us the chat, is that Jean?
Oh, Jean Fox, yes.
She's an organisation, and they wrote me an email saying, sorry, you've got too much on, can't help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was the end of that. So, hence the
Well, she obviously knows exactly what she's doing all the time, and it would have been a plus to have had her on board, wouldn't it?
I thought she said she'd help us.
Yeah, she did, but then I got an email saying, yeah, great, sorry, no, can't.
Yeah, she said she'd be around if we needed her.
Pressure of work.
Yeah.
So,
And she was involved in the Winslow plan.
yes, but there you go.
Any other questions on planning? Facilities. Report and recommendations from the Facilities Commission.
I'm afraid it's quite a few things we'll be busy doing. We held our meeting on the 4th of February and
January.
I beg your pardon, 4th of January, I do beg your pardon. Myself was elected as chairman and Colin was elected as vice chairman. We have formed two subcommittees. The first one is grounds maintenance, and this will cover all the mowing in the park and the churchyard and all the footpaths in the village. On that small subcommittee is Dave Wallace, Joe Hoynville, Colin Reid, and we've co-opted Alan Mooney, who is in the corner over here. Sports and Recreation is another subcommittee, and we've got Dave Wallace, myself, and Leslie Ronson I co-opted. I'm hoping that maybe Teresa and Tony will join us with their expertise with the allotments, because Sports and Recreations covers basically all the users of the park. So that's everybody from the footballers, all the clubs, the regimental fitness, all the people actually having bits and pieces, and including the allotment people. The grounds maintenance, we've initiated an exercise to look at a single contractor for the upkeep of the park, the churchyard and the footpaths. Initially, Dave has done his sort of review where he wants to sort of get the footpaths in the village up to an acceptable standard, which we've already agreed to in council. But thereafter, we will need to look at maintaining those and upkeeping them. We've done a very, very long specification document, which we've had a lot of input from all the members, and that has been passed around to you, so I hope you've had a chance to look at it. It's quite a long document. And between all of us, with lots of input and walking the park, we've sort of decided different aspects of what's needed. Basically, we're going to put this tender out for invitation with a tender specification and a project plan, and we've got an advert ready to go. And we've got an invitation to tender here. We're going to advertise in the local press, obviously AVDC, Bucks County Council, because we appreciate this is quite a big job for any one company. Having said that, we're looking to even sort of 2 or 3 man person. It's not a huge onerous. It's, you know, it's pretty, you know, what's been happening already in the park. But what we're looking for is people to come forward and express an interest in it, and then they will receive the tender documents and then put forward their tenders. We've got a time plan already mapped out. Here. We hope to start advertising that this week, if you all agree with what we've prepared. When we get at our meeting the next week, we're going to be looking at an internal costing model for comparison to the tenders with the hire of an employed groundsman and the restoration of in-store, or rather in-house equipment. So we're still looking at ways to try and help the council utilise their money properly. We have to see what people come and quote. We've asked for a quote for the cuts over the year, and also for ad hoc cuts, so we can divide it up and see what people come out with. Anything else, Dave, that we came up with there?
I thought we just need approval for it, don't we?
Yes.
Put around so we can go ahead with it.
Have you got anybody got any questions about our huge documents here?
Yeah, I've got 3 or 4 specific suggestions, but I think I'd rather just deal with email you than rather than.
Sure. Have you probably had any chance to look?
I have.
Oh,
yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, no. That's.
Please don't ask about the height of the green sward. That took a long time to sort out.
No, my concern, I mean, I'll put it in an email to you, but I don't think I want to waste everybody's time. But the 2 concerns are the maintenance of the car park and proposals, because obviously we have a lot of equipment. So the question, it's the interface, you know, we need a proposal. In
in some respects, because we've got to maintain the shed, we've got equipment, so some people will have their own equipment, so we just need a proposition of some kind. That was all.
I think that's
Those are my only comments.
Yeah, I mean, we literally, at our first meeting, we sort of tried to pull everything together. I mean, obviously, if you have machinery, you've then got to upkeep it and maintain it, as we found with the tractor, that needs mending.
Well,
so,
that's
you know, we've got to...
But we have to tackle that.
That's right, and then we look at other things, you know, if we are having people coming in with gang mowers, then they'll bring it in and just supply it. So, you know, we've got to look at the cost of those things.
But then we would have to deal with the tractor and the maintenance. It's just a...
If we need it.
And the car park's a good point as well.
Well, the car park, I mean, it's never been managed, there's also part of view. It's not managed at all, it never has been, it's completely ad hoc and it's a shambles. So, and it wouldn't take very much to maintain it. I mean, Richard, with all his other jobs, and I have often done it.
But that's something we need to probably pop in there.
Yeah,
we tend to think about the growing thing.
We were just concentrating on the green bits.
Yeah, but it's not, it's more that
I think the thing is, Tony, what we do want to get bogged down with is we want a specialist that can do the grass cutting and those things. We didn't want to cross over into various other maintenance projects, which might dilute the actual skill base, where we could actually, if we need to do some work on the car park, we bring someone in who's a specialist in it and they do it.
But we never have. I just think it's far. I think it's so easy because actually Everett have been doing that anyway. So I just think it's easy to put in. It can always be pulled out if they say I don't want to do that. But if you put it in as something that needs doing,
point taken anyway.
That's all.
Just one point. Reading the tender, I understood that's what they were. They were bringing their own equipment.
Yeah. I think
they may do, but they don't have to.
It's you're asking for own equipment in a tender document.
In the tender document, so they supply all the equipment.
I mean, I think once we get together and again we have another meeting. Bear in mind we've only had one meeting, and not all the councillors were able to attend that one. I think we would be looking at comparison, cost comparison.
That's
But the important thing is, for goodness sake, we don't want to slow it down. So I think I'd rather put my comments just down, because I think we should go full steam ahead.
Well, we plan to do a costing of, you know, using our own equipment, but we need to get ahead with this and get on with someone, because this grass cutting is going to need to start shortly.
Just get the tenders.
Yeah, so we need to get it.
Yeah, no, we do.
So, I propose a motion that Council notes the proposed course of action to identify a preferred supplier for grounds maintenance services. Do I have a second? Thank you very much.
Members, we need a show of hands for that. So all in favour, I'll go.
Thank you very much. Litter picking. The person that was doing it before decided not to do it anymore, so we had to find a very short-term solution to maintain the litter picking, bin emptying in the park. Luckily, it's been winter time, so we haven't had hordes of people, but Eamon McGoldrick helped us out, and he's done a very good job. He's very, very conscientious. But we're now looking at a long-term solution with somebody who will undertake the specified litter picking task in return for a charitable donation. We were wondering whether or not the Explorer Scouts would be interested in helping. It would be something they could do on a rota basis. We would be giving them a charitable donation. It would be something they would be working for the community. And hopefully with that number of boys, it won't be too onerous for them, so they won't get too fed up doing it. And it's something that might stop, but we want to sort of discuss it with the council, see what they thought.
The guides have already done this on a couple of occasions, haven't they?
This would be a proper organised thing. For them to be paid, you know, a charitable donation to their funds every month. So it'd have to be organised properly. I mean,
I did speak to. There was a couple of questions they had, but I didn't want to take any further if the council was in favour of it.
No. What does everybody think?
So if the council are in favour of it, then I'll go away and have another chat with them.
As long as legally we could do it. I mean, I'd love to see it happen, but we've just got to make sure that there's no contingent liability on it.
They've got their own discounts, their own insurance.
Well, that might be the right way. It sounds a good idea.
Yeah.
obviously we would do a risk assessment, and always had health and safety training and all that kind of thing.
Oh, it sounds good.
As with any.
What about employing miners and supervision of?
Yeah,
would they cover that?
We would have, well, the miners, and sort of the most 17, the explorers, 17, 18-year-olds, some of them. We're not looking at, well, the explorers have got to be 14 and a half, 15,
so they're not
anyway.
they're not
We're not looking at the scouts.
Sounds like it.
We're looking at the explorers, the older ones.
We've been accused of not contractorising things properly in the past, so are we intending to do that?
I mean,
yeah, if we do it, we'd have a formal contract ready to do it.
Yeah. But the payment will be as a charitable donation to their funds.
That, in principle, I'm happy with that as long as we cover join the dots.
Now, we've got a couple of questions, but like I said, I can go wherever the champion before we take any further.
Well,
if everybody agrees to it.
I'll propose that then. Yeah?
Yeah, so...
Show of hands, please.
I'm keeping out of it.
And they might not drop the
Declare
litter.
it.
Well, I haven't, because I'm not involved in explorers. I'm in scouts, not explorers, so, but I'll keep out of it anyway.
The next thing that is I want to talk about is the hub, which, because the hub has been a registered name, we were wondering whether we could take it back to the name Pavilion, which I gather was the name
Oh, that's on your
previously,
deeds.
way back, and I thought that might be a nice thing to do, to get back to. So for the moment we're calling it the Pavilion. The council successfully and safely repossessed the pavilion on the 16th of January, thereby terminating the lease agreement with the hub, Aston Limited. The priority now is to complete an inventory of the contents in the pavilion prior to returning any personal belongings after the individual can provide proof of ownership. Jill is working very closely with the solicitor, and he is helping us every step of the way. The documentation for this. We've had several people come forward that they have items that obviously, because we've now changed the locks, they don't have any access to it, and so as long as they can provide proof of ownership.
Not sure.
This is for personal items. No?
How can we just take the legal route here?
Yeah. That it's
Well,
very,
we are as such.
it's very
Yeah,
extremely
it's
specific, Tony. It's extremely specific about the personal items. You're welcome to have a look at the document.
No, it's fine. Everything's ours.
Yeah, I think there was a small business, for example, that had cars in there that were selling them, just a tiny little stand, and it was in a
sort of sale or return basis.
Yeah, it was a sale and return basis, and it was
well,
it was just
the law is the law.
Of course it is, yeah.
What's in there belongs to us.
Yeah.
We decide to give back to people.
It belongs to somebody else.
Unless there's a sticker on it.
No, it doesn't. The law is very clear that the only thing that belongs to you is the things that belong to the hub, and therefore you can take them in lieu of rent. But you cannot take up somebody else's possessions if they're there in a different place. They used to be when I was on there. These pictures on the walls he was selling on behalf of somebody else. You can't, for instance, take those. That's theft.
And this is where we're working very closely with Jonathan.
Yeah, that's the impression
to make
we've
sure
got
that
from
we're
Jonathan so
absolutely
far,
doing it
isn't it?
properly. That's why it's taking time to make sure that the inventory is quite tedious, and I appreciate some help for anybody. That would be really helpful. Thank you. So thereafter, the council has the option to dispose of other items to compensate for rent arrears. Once we've gone through that process of making sure there's no personal items in there. The council needs to be aware that Mr Brennan, on behalf of the hub Aston Limited, has threatened legal proceedings, but the council is working closely under the direction of its solicitors to manage this risk.
We've heard nothing more than that first letter, have we, John? Or the only letter that Mr Brennan sent? Have you heard anything since from him? No?
There was a shouty email.
Oh.
The lawyer's dealing with him now.
Yeah, okay, so great.
Future options for the pavilion are now being considered, and the 4 headline options are: do nothing, keep it closed. That has to be an option. The internal option: the parish council retains responsibility for day-to-day management and the use of all the pavilion premises. an external option, which is where the parish council awards a lease to a business who assumes responsibility for the day-to-day management of the premises in accordance with current permitted use. Or 4, which is another option, which is a hybrid option, where the parish council works in partnership with a third party to offer a mixed-use facility as yet to be determined. Any other thoughts? Would appreciate them. So many people are stopping and asking, what are we going to do with it? And I mean, I know Jill has been inundated with suggestions of every hue and cry, haven't you, Jill? We need to think really hard about what we all want from this, really. The village, what the village want.
Well, we've tried every option so far, unsuccessful. The parish council managed it, we had a committee managing it, and then we had a licensee running it, and then that was taken over, and each one has ended up with a either the place being closed as it is now, or run at a loss.
But shouldn't the committee have a small subgroup that looks at proposals? Because we.
Oh yeah.
And actively seek proposals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the only fair way of doing it. But, and then the parish council probably need to give some guidelines.
I think it's very important that we engage with the community about this. There's in debating and sort of looking at all the different options. And what we thought of a committee is actually inviting the whole of the village to actually help us to decide. And we're thinking about doing a paper-based questionnaire, an online survey, and then have a public meeting. And then bring all those thoughts together.
Do you think that's too long-winded?
I don't agree with that.
I
mean, you can get opinions, but ultimately we can't end with the shambles that we've had here. I mean, you know, it's got to be something that, you know, at the moment the hub, originally it was intended that it would make a contribution to the village, to funds, to help. Actually, as Jeff's pointed out, really it's costing us money now. So we've got to have something that's either, as you say, run and it's clearly a cost to the parish council and the community, or it's something that partially pays its way.
Well, it depends on the rent,
pays its way, pays its way in many different ways.
Yes, and we've got, I mean, you know, there are, so I think we ought to be proactive. We should listen to the community, but ultimately there's got to be a body or bodies come forward to take responsibility for running it.
Well, depends what's decided as to how it's run.
No, it won't. You can't run it. You can't run it just as an open thing or let the community run it. I mean, it's got to be something tangible.
We need to look at the different options as to what people are expecting. I mean, I've listened to so many different opinions about, you know, it should be this, it should be that, and I'm sure you've all had the same thing.
But you know, is it going to be? Is the council happy to have it as a community facility and pay all the costs of that? You know,
well,
that's
we have to ask the question of the public, who are ultimately, funding through the precept. What are we scared of in terms of asking the public?
Okay.
It's just
let's get their input. It's consultation. I'm not involved in this, but my gut feel is it's going to take a while to sort out Brennan, the hub, etc. It ain't going to happen overnight. So rather than sitting our backsides waiting for that to happen, let's go and talk.
I mean, I'd be very interested in sort of hearing what people think, or how it should look in 5 years' time. You know, who do they want in? Do they want a coffee shop? Do they want a mother toddler group? Do they want, you know, rooms for hire, restaurant?
They may want it, but you've got to have someone that's prepared to run these things. That's the difficulty. And surely, as part of the consultation, I mean, anyone can consult on anything. But in the meantime, don't you think we should be trying to be quite proactive to seek people that are interested in running the place?
Yes. Yeah,
and under the subcommittee.
Does that not presume an outcome from the public consultation?
Well, but it's part of. I mean, the public consultation what are you going to say to the public?
Well, ask them what sort of options, how do they see
Yeah.
the building being most effectively used? But what I don't think we can do is to go out to the public and say, hey, what do you think? And then with the left hand and the right hand's talking to some people who want to take the hub over and do this, that and the other to it. It doesn't sound like, well, it does sound like left hand, right hand business.
Yeah.
We've got to be consistent in the approach.
But in the meantime,
I mean,
does it stay empty?
As Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
well, yes,
quite
it has to stay empty.
Yeah.
But it
As
can
Mr.
only
Chairman
until the
quite rightly said,
Yes, yes.
there have been different different ways of solely managing it. You know, the leaseholder with the club, so it may well be that it would take a multifaceted approach to make it, and it will take time to get it up and running. It won't be quick.
In the short term, and we're taking leave of advice, but with many of these things, there is a time limit on it. You advertise. Is there a time limit on it? After such and such a time, any claim that Mr. Brennan has is expired? Or?
Well, I don't think. I mean, we've got to listen to what the lawyer says.
I've not heard that.
We listen to what the lawyer says, but I would have said that we need to go out, if your proposal is accepted, to consult in the very widest sense, then you need to go out pretty quickly, because you do not want this building empty for a long period of time.
I agree with you on that. And can we utilise the Village Life magazine on?
Yeah,
sure.
To
disseminate.
Yes, I mean,
first
yes. Well, we could do, but I'm wondering whether or not a paper-based questionnaire and also something online. With very basic questions.
Do enough people look at it online?
I don't think they would.
Yeah.
Even if I were able to
it's over 2
support,
months,
remember
you see.
that the next edition of Village Life won't be out until the start of April.
True.
Yeah,
But it's better than nothing, though, isn't it?
It's a delay. You're
Well, you
asking
put it on
for
the
it to get
website,
through,
no,
so
so
it's a
no
delay.
reason.
It's just one mechanism.
Absolutely.
Yes, we can
The
definitely
more-
put it on the website then.
The more we can employ, the better.
Yeah.
The hub has been successful in the summer periods. I mean, whenever it's been successful. Now, it might be that the way forward would be have a short-term lease for someone who wants to run it, when we know that the fact that as soon as the sun shines, the place will be...
See, sorry, but your community-based ideas, fine. Let's go and do that. But for example, you know, I'm not a scout. I used to be. I'm not involved with the Scouts, but I'm very keen on promoting their interests. I mean, it may be that the hub could be a long-term home for them.
I think
that's one possibility, and that could link in with something else.
Yeah.
And I also think that whilst I think we need to be exploring as many possibilities as we can.
I think that's what this is.
Well, I think that's
what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Let's call it.
I think the public consultation thing meets the issue halfway. We also, or can we not, concurrently go out to the wider public and ask if there's any expressions of interest to take that on as a business?
We've got loads of expressions of business.
So we can understand.
We've got tons of them.
Yeah, but they need to be gone through because some of them, you know, the problem is,
Oh, yes.
it's, you know, talk is very cheap.
Yes.
And we cannot afford the mistakes of the past in relation to that building. It's better not to do anything than to go with someone that's not capable of doing what they say they're going to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So our next meeting's next week.
Is it?
Yeah, next Wednesday. Do come.
When you say you've got lots of interest, I mean...
Jill has. Jill's inundated with people offering...
To run it,
to do everything and everything. I think the only thing...
All varieties.
All varieties of clubs and everything.
To run the whole thing or to run bits.
But it's, I mean, that sounds, I mean, if it gives the community, because lots of people, I don't want to express too many views here, but lots of people think that for toddlers and mums and people, a cafe type thing is great for the summer.
Yeah.
You know, as I mentioned, the
Yeah.
Scouts, there might be
Yeah.
something preschool, something for the community. We don't want another pub. At least I wouldn't have thought we want another pub. But
Some people might, so we need to hear what they want.
We need someone to run it though, not us.
And that's the point.
That's the biggest thing I feel. We don't want to be involved in
What
running
we're
it.
going to do next week at our facilities is basically form a pavilion subcommittee.
Yeah.
and then we'll start the whole process. To be perfectly honest with you, we have been very busy with our tender.
Yeah, no,
So,
no. Sorry, I'm not. It's just the time.
No,
I'm not being critical.
What we are
And I've been
volunteering-
on holiday. Yeah, in the meantime.
We are considering having a short-term option to provide hot drinks and food at weekends until the way forward is resolved. We've had lots of queries from the poor footballers who are standing so sadly on that patio, freezing cold. And so one of the things we will be looking at next week is maybe thinking about doing a very short-term, I don't know, contract with a van serving hot drinks or something like that. That's on the agenda for next week to maybe think about that. But doing it that's under council control, because so many people are missing that.
What about utilising the youth club?
Where's that voice coming
That's
from?
all right. Sorry.
If we've got so many people interested, shouldn't they be considered? I mean, we.
They are.
Yeah, that's what next week.
I mean, the number, the actual.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we need to consider everything.
Everything.
When you say the youth clubs, what exactly do you mean by
Well, they do teas and coffees, and they have done for many years. I'm just saying, with the football and everything.
You actually look at all these people who are interested.
It brings them in a couple of quid.
Possibly advertise it far wider.
That will definitely.
We will.
But
We
it needs to be done sooner.
We only repossessed it 2.5 weeks ago, and to be frank with you, we wanted a period of just calming and cooling down. We were very, very aware that it was a very difficult and awkward day for Jill.
There were lots of strange vans and cars turning up
It
that
was
day,
not a
weren't
good
there?
day, and so I think there's just been a period of just
Highly
letting
amusing
things
day,
lie,
I
letting
think.
the dust settle, and that we waited for this meeting to come and talk to you and see.
Marion,
The youth club have just said they'd like to do teas and coffees at the weekends.
Can you
No, I'm not. I can't speak on behalf of the youth club. It's just that I know the youth club have and done in the past teas and coffees for the footballers and various things like
Any
that.
chance that he can come to our meeting next week?
Chris Lawson is the one you need to speak to
Have a
there.
chat to him and see if he wants to
She.
come to the meeting.
And
She
she's far too ill to be doing that, but I can have a word with her to see who.
Perhaps you can
be
send a
spoken
representative.
to.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it does get hired out on
Well, it'd be
Saturdays
Katie Pryor,
sometimes.
wouldn't it? Katie Pryor would speak
Yes.
to.
I mean, if the council did offer some sort of solution, I think we need to be fairly consistent. We don't want people expecting things and then they're
If
not
you
there.
propose her the question, see what she says.
Okay.
Okay.
So I propose that the council notes the proposed course of action to determine the way forward for the pavilion. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Joe. We vote on it?
Yeah.
Thank you. The other issues, the allotments.
I'm sorry.
The-
I didn't
the
see the
allot-
proposer and
Oh,
seconder.
sorry, I was a proposer.
Yeah, thank you.
The allotments. At the moment, the clerk is liaising with Mr. Ronson over a proposal to revitalise some allotments. And I gather that, well, I think Teresa knows more about this, don't you, Teresa?
Yes.
Yeah.
There were quite a few that hadn't been done for quite a while, and we disposed of them. They had paid for their plots for this year, hadn't they, most of them?
Yeah, not those ones, that we did evict one.
We evicted only one, I thought there was more than that.
One so far.
I think a couple are on sort of notice.
One is on notice.
One on notice.
But I think we need to be quite brutal. Because it's not fair on the other allotment holders. If they haven't done it for one season and some haven't done it for two, you know, I mean, why on earth, I know it's only a few pounds, but, you know, why would you want to pay for something that you don't use?
Well, we haven't enforced the conditions, have we?
Well, I thought we were, but I think we definitely need to, because it's not fair on other people. You know, they're doing theirs, all these weeds are coming up and blowing everywhere.
We should be doing it now, actually.
Well, yes, and Chris is, you know, he's working hard, but to be perfectly honest, I don't see why he really
What
needs
he's
to.
doing is he's getting them properly weed free, so you don't just go and chop it down and dig a bit, because you've got those
yeah.
white things that grow underground.
Yes, I do know
Yeah,
that.
whatever they're called, basil roots, whatever.
Yeah, anything
I've
like
been
that.
lectured many times, and if you're going to do it, you do it properly, and that's his, and he wants to do it properly. So
Yeah. So obviously we, yeah.
Okay.
But we need to get, if there's somebody, we've got to be brutal.
Yes. Can we be brutal that need kicking off at the minute? aren't
No, I
we?
think you're up to scratch.
Yeah,
with
we've
that,
done
aren't
it all.
you? Yeah,
It's
I
all
think that's
sorted.
They're all
sort of
sorted
dealt
at the
with.
moment.
That one next to
Okay.
you.
The other issue...
They better have it back.
The other
Under
issue...
licence.
Yes, Jean, go on.
Thank you, Leslie. The other issue is playground equipment. We missed our annual inspection last year. That has been booked in the next couple of weeks, I believe, Jill. We've actually used a company that have done it the previous 2 years. And we've asked for some guidance on weekly inspection requirements. We did wonder whether we could go to monthly, but that's not covered under our insurance, so it has to be weekly. Has to be weekly.
Yes, we think that's we're
true.
just checking on that. We think that's going to be okay, don't we? Doesn't
Weekly.
have to
Well,
be an
there is
approved
No,
inspection.
it is right. Somebody just needs to
No,
go
it
and we
could be
Yes,
common
yeah.
sense.
So we're
And
going to get
test.
some, we're going to get some guidance from this lady. One thing we do have to do, that we need proper signage for the playground. It's the equipment. It isn't there, and it should be there.
Okay.
So we're going to get guidance on that as well. One of the things that came up last meeting was about dog fouling. A lot of people are very concerned about the increase in dog fouling throughout the village, especially on the footpaths. Action has been taken in the past with apparently reasonable effects. So, Bucks County Council, no, ABDC, have been contacted. They sent us a big pack full of fresh signs and
Leslie's
notices
been
for the
doing
village.
sterling work around the village.
We have noticed them going
And
up.
I did actually stick a leaflet and a brochure through one man's door in the dark, and I ran like hell.
Did you put a load of poo bags in it? That's it.
If we do run out of signs, I know Alec has sent me some very good signs that Watford have adapted, because, as his point was, you can have people, you can have signs and you can have posters, you can have information, you can have advisory, and they send out different messages. So if we run out of the ones from ABDC, it might be worth looking at those ones as well.
I have actually put some there. If anybody would like to take one, please do, but only if you are actually going to put it up on a lamppost or something. But please do, we'd love to have them. They're there.
The school,
I can always get more.
the school, it was suggested, maybe they like to sort of help with this as well, because obviously the effect on children, if they... Joe, are you listening? You're not listening.
I won't tell you what he said. That's just about concrete.
The school, unbeknownst to us, have actually started their own project to raise awareness, and I think maybe some of their posters will be quite brilliant. I think they'll be more effective, because they certainly only see the speeding signs. I did contact the ABDC Environmental Health and to get a guidance about their dog wardens. They only work 10 hours a month.
The chances of catching someone are
And I
just
said, okay,
zero.
they can be fined, I think it's £1,000. If it's an on-the-spot fine, it's something like £58 on the spot. And I said, well, how can you enforce that? And she said, what you need to do is, if you know somebody who's persistently dog fouling, you need to note, and you know that they're going at the same time with their dog, you contact them, and they will send out the dog warden and do the appropriate measures.
Or you stick a leaflet through the door.
So that's what her advice was. The next thing was we've had this request. It was basically about the British Legion using the parish office for monthly meetings. I wonder if you'd like to lead on that.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't. Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Very interest.
Okay, okay. There's the council received a request from the British Legion to use this parish office for their monthly meetings. At the moment they meet in Buckland, I believe, and they find it's too small. They used to meet in the hub, and they don't meet, obviously, there, and haven't been meeting there for a while. They want to pay a nightly fee. They've suggested £1.50 per person, and they would organise their own refreshments. We have had a precedent set. The Scouts have met here, but the proviso was that a councillor was present during the meeting. So I really want to discuss it with councillors. What is councillors' view on the access and the charges for use of the parish office by clubs such as the British Legion?
Well, I personally feel, and I'll put on an email, perhaps, I'm not sure too, not sure. specifically the British Legion, I'd be ashamed if we charged the British Legion.
So would I.
This office. I think they do a sterling job. So I don't think they should be charged. No, I think I'm not sure if Paul would be at his meetings, so that would cover that.
You're telling me people. So I think we should do it on the same basis as the Scouts were saying.
That's my personal
Yeah,
opinion.
I agree with that.
Would you want to propose that?
Well, then if
We
someone else
talked
might
around
talk
this,
about
haven't we, lots before.
Someone else might want
If
to.
you're at the
See,
meetings,
I
anyway.
disagree.
I know you do.
I disagree.
And I do to a certain extent, but
I
that's fine.
disagree.
But we've talked around it in our facilities bit, didn't we?
Yeah,
So,
I still disagree.
Yeah, we
okay,
never
that's fine. But if David wants to propose that,
Yeah.
Well, I'll
it,
propose it, but if someone else
and
wants to make
vote
another
on it,
comment.
then we come to a decision on it, do
We
we
do.
not?
But we can't really charge can't really charge the British Legion if we don't charge the Scouts. I think
Well,
that's an opinion anyway.
Yes, exactly.
It's a charity at the end of the day.
Exactly.
It's not a money-making organisation.
How often do Scouts use it?
I didn't.
Every first month.
How often, Joe?
Well, we live every night. We just don't know it.
No,
No,
can we have a proposal
Yeah,
then?
that's, so I think we talked around this before.
Can I just, before we, I'm sorry, if you say this room can be used for the British Legion, what happens if we want to have a meeting on the night that they hold it? Do we say to them you have to meet on a different night?
Well, I think we can set a calendar, can't we? If we know when they're meeting, I think I'm sure we can.
You meet
Second Tuesday every month.
It's only once a month.
Tuesday
isn't it?
So
once a month.
11
So
times
what
a year.
happens if you have another group want to come and use his parish office?
They can't.
Well, they make the same
Well, that all
approach, the
depends.
same.
They're on the same
Who they are.
Thursday, weren't they?
No, it all depends who they are and the criteria behind it all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think so, and also they need to be a grown-up organisation. I mean, we obviously don't want, you know,
I take your point,
parties
Julie, and I'm in
things,
favour
isn't it?
of making that and then paying
Just
a
a
little
small
bit.
chunk.
But you know, we're all going to differ on this
Yeah, I
issue,
know.
so let's just
Let's have a vote.
vote on
Can I
it.
just
That's
ask
my decision.
about key holding for that and locking up, opening
Yeah.
and locking up?
Well, that's why we said we'll have a parish council.
So that person would be responsible?
Yes.
So are we saying that the British Legion and Parish Councillor will be present?
Yes.
Paul
He's
would be
there.
there.
Oh, right.
Just so that you
But
know.
just before we take a vote, I think I'm with Jean on
He
this.
can't guarantee to be there every time.
And if you can't make it, I'll do it.
I think
I'd do it.
you need a licence agreement
You'll
or
do it
something.
if
You
you
need
can't.
something,
Yeah.
even if it's just £1 for people like the Scouts and the British Legion. But you need just a short agreement about it, because anyone can come and say then, I want to use the parish office.
Yeah.
Well, we can say.
Then we can say no.
Yeah.
But as long as, I mean, obviously if Paul wasn't going to be there, there would be a responsible adult anyway. I mean, like Ralph or somebody. I mean, I'd be quite
I
happy
know
to
I've
come.
declared an interest, but can I offer comments? Does
Yes.
anybody mind?
We want you to.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. We were clearly in the pavilion,
Yeah.
and we couldn't continue
might be
because of
again.
those issues. And we would love to go back there.
We'd like to go back.
We found additional premises in Buckland, which has suited us for the short term. The membership has increased slightly, which is fantastic given the age group of the interested cohorts. And we are unable to go downstairs in Buckland Hall because that's been taken by some other organisations, which is absolutely fine. However, or equally, the Buckland is Buckland, and we are Aston Clinton, the branch of the Royal British Legion, and we feel we should be in our village. And so that's why the letter has been written. The rationale for offering £1.50 per head is on the basis that we are currently running in Buckland Hall to generate enough money to pay for the rent that we have to pay over there. But equally, we feel if we come into the room here and we want to boil the kettle, we should contribute to the electricity. I think that's only fair and reasonable. And we wouldn't want it to be seen, despite the fact that we are a senior charity in the village, to be sponging off anybody. And we do want to be seen to be contributing to the village appropriately. So that's why there's the rationale of £1.50. I could offer myself as the appropriate adult in terms of a key orderly as a parish councillor, but I also think to give that longevity, we would perhaps, or I could offer maybe 3 people as signed key holders. Maybe the chairman, myself, and the secretary, and you could guarantee, and you could hold them accountable for the security of the building, and that would be my preferred option. So that you know, I have issues occasionally getting away from work, and as Ralph correctly said, I can't always make it, although I have a pretty good hit rate. But if we had a three-person key with me, you authorised them to have the key, and they signed as having taken responsibility of the building, that would be my offer of a way to move forward.
What do members feel then? The nominal sum of £1.50?
And a licence agreement.
And a licence agreement.
That would be my... Paul, there's a really minor bit of organisation which you're still going to have to contend with, is this room is usually cold, and the heaters are turned on specifically for the purpose. So they were turned on this morning to get the room heated for tonight.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, if someone phones me
we'd be
during
happy
the
to
day, I'm happy
if
to
you're
do
around,
it.
yeah.
Just
To
don't
come
know,
here-
I need to remember. But
Yeah,
if someone rings me during the day, I'm happy to do
You
it.
know, where you know, the benefit of the members coming into a car park that's lit, to a place they can get to, so where there's paths where they can see, which we can't do, there's none of that at Buckland, there's no parking.
Right.
It's just for them to sit, for here to sit with their coats on, they'd be over the moon to do that. You know, there's so many advantages to
Makes it
being
even better.
in this.
You'll be getting your
in this part
violin
of
out
the
in a
village.
minute.
Yeah, you know, thank you for as the branch's president. Thank you very much for your debate and consideration. It makes a big difference to us to find somewhere in our village where we can meet.
So would we like to change the proposal then?
So the proposal then is a nominal sum, is it?
Of £1.50
With an agreement.
£1.50 per person or £1.50
per attendee.
Right.
Per attendee. And
that fluctuates, so we're not...
no, and to have 3 key holders.
Is that correct?
No, one, you only need one key. You
No, three key holders. Yeah, 3 signed key holders. Responsible persons who accept responsibility for the building.
Okay, so we have a proposal and a second.
I'm sorry, will you be requiring to store your refreshments in there?
Well, can I pause on that answer? I think we bring our own, and we bring them on the evening. Thank you.
Right, Aaron's proposing that.
There have been numerous proposals.
Okay. Have you got the proposal there, Jill? You're quite happy with what we're doing?
Yeah.
What the wording of it?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I'll second it.
So seconded by Teresa. Aaron and can I have a show of hands then, please? All in favour? Except for
Still nothing to charge for, that's my opinion, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a democracy, I'm sorry.
Right.
I think
One more thing.
We've got one more thing, and this is just about the culvert. This is the area over here where we had the flooded football field. It was being discussed over the last 3 or 4 months, and Dave's going to talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know if members remember at the November meeting, we discussed, I've got it here somewhere, what we discussed, and we resolved to agree in principle to propose works, but the request we made to BCC for clearer plans and details on where the works will take place. It was resolved the chairman to take this matter forward on behalf of the council and report back before any decision is made to proceed. It was also resolved that the Parks Committee take responsibility for the overseeing of this work and report to council on matters relevant to the proposed works. Unfortunately, for some reason I don't know why, the chairman decided the following day to write to the council, CC, and say that we had voted for the works. So they're on the impression that we agreed it, and they are in full steam ahead to carry on with this works. So
I understood that they were to come and peg it out for our...
No, that's not the email they received. It was the email said that the council had voted for the works. A few councillors expressed a concern about the height of the bunding. As far as they were concerned, it was full steam ahead. They've made boards they want to put up to explain to the parishioners what's going on. Jill has emailed back and reiterated what we had resolved. So we're trying now to sort of obviously stop this and go back into a consultation, because we need it pegged out to see exactly where it's going, because really none of us know where it's going just yet. I'm still a firm believer, I walked it again with Jean last Saturday, that it's going to cross the meadow pitch side of the apparatus in the corner there, with the bunding as well further over, which is going to encroach on the football pitch. It's also, the bunding's going to run down. I don't know the name of the path, but it's an ancient roadway that runs up by the artificial pitch, then runs across the fields and goes all up the woods. And part of that bunding will actually be on that pathway. So, you know, and I think that's something that should be taken into consideration, because that is really that use of that road ever going completely. And one thing that still bothers me about this is one of the comments from when they originally wrote to us was there are houses downstream that are shown to be at risk of flooding, so it's important to consider increased flows downstream. Now, I really think this is one of the most important things in this document, because basically they're saying to us, if we build that culvert, which there's going to need something to be done there, if the water then is pushed further down, flooding houses further down the village, we're going to be in big trouble. There's no doubt about it. And we've got to look at things like this before we
won't be in big trouble.
Well,
we're just we're solving our problem.
Yeah, but we're moving it somewhere else.
No, we're sorry. That may be a valid point for the whole proposal.
Yeah.
But all we're just agreeing to opening up that channel.
Yeah, but
that's all.
Yeah, but surely if what we do could detriment someone further downstream, wouldn't it? Couldn't they say that you did that without taking this?
Well, the only thing is, the alternative was it's because the culvert is blocked. This is all about not unblocking the culvert that's there.
Yeah.
So the risk of downstream flooding would be there if the culvert was unblocked. The point is we shouldn't claim responsibility for this, because if we did, we might have done it differently. I mean, some of us might have said it might be better to unblock the culvert, but the Environment Agency are not prepared to pay for that. Notwithstanding that, what we don't want to do is to slow this process down, but what we do want to do is to make sure it's right.
Definitely.
So,
there was a site visit, wasn't there, on Monday?
And that was the agreement that nothing would be done until it had been pegged up for our approval. And the only other thing that had to be done, and has been done, is the archaeological survey, because apparently down there used to be a ridge and furrow.
The trouble is, all I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is that on the letter that you wrote to them, the email you sent the next day, they had made signs up that they wanted to put up, because we got an email about it the other day, that we had to ask them to not do, and they were, as far as they go, planning permission to.
Planning permission has gone in.
Has gone in for this work.
Well, I mean, it's good that it's gone in, isn't it? But now we need to see the planning documents.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a serious issue. It's 2 years of flooding.
Yeah.
So if we get the planning documents, we better.
Well, we had a meeting on Monday arranged, but unfortunately, then there was cross wires and the lady didn't turn up. So Jill is rescheduling.
I think the important thing is we all agree in principle that something had to be done, but it's going to seriously change the landscape of that end of the park. There's bunding, we don't know how high it's going to be. It's going to be to 3 sides.
Yeah, the bunding, everything had to be agreed by the parish council before anything was done.
Exactly, that's what I keep saying.
Should have been.
So
well, it is. That's exactly what it is.
Except if the planning application has gone in.
It's gone in on. This is what's concerning me. It's gone in on the back of this email that was sent, and we're now having to stop this and try and get back to it, get them to peg it out so we can all go down and have a look.
Sorry, Dave.
We were repeating ourselves again and again. Nothing was going to be done until it was pegged out and the parish council approved it.
Drill, do you, ground truth, no pun, do you know what's happening in terms of the pegging and
The current status, I believe, is that the planning permission has gone in. There's no pegging out is being planned.
So can we correspond with them and reiterate if we want to see what
I
they're...
have.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to reschedule a meeting with her. She believes that this was a resolution from council and she has actioned it.
Can you see?
The flood management.
That's what we're
trying to say. Dave's point is well made, and we didn't agree. No matter what's been said, we did not agree for, or resolve to have that planning permission endorsed. So we need to go back to them and say.
But unfortunately, they seem to have got that message.
No matter what. So we need
to bypass a massive part of this. I mean, we agree that something needs to be done, but we need to know exactly what we're going to get. So the village needs to know what it's going to get.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, though. We agree there's a problem. How do we now resolve it? Jill, can you take it on?
Monday's meeting would have resolved it.
Could you ask for a copy of the planning application? I think that's a start. Because I would like to just see that, because I mean Dave's comments about the foot meadow pitch, it shouldn't be anywhere near.
It's not
nowhere near it.
But that was the whole idea of
pegging out. The thing is, we've not had any plans that show us any dimensions on to show us exactly where anything is.
The dimensions are on there. That's 8 metres wide. It's going to be on the scrubland, and it's on the map.
So you're still telling me it's the other side of the apparatus down there?
It's on the waste. It's on the scrubland
But it doesn't
by the
pay
tree.
No, yeah, so there's a bit of apparatus in that corner.
Oh, it's nowhere near the apparatus.
So you're saying it's the far side, airfield side?
It is, yes, definitely is.
Well, I've so put it in an email to everyone. I say quite, if anyone can look at these drawings, that is going to be on the meadow side of that apparatus. We've then got the expense of moving the apparatus, changing all the signs for the trim trail.
We wouldn't want it there.
To be frank with you, I think it's irrelevant. We have to get this lady out and have it pegged
Yes.
out. At the end,
Well,
that's it really.
That was the final agreement. They will peg it out for our approval before. And in fact, if you measure up the scrubland there, it's 16 metres. So there's plenty of room, except when it gets to the far side.
Richard, me and Jean, we walked down to the end of the stream where it's in the park, where it comes back to the park. We walked over into the field, and if you look at the plans, you put the red line across that. That runs the meadow side of that apparatus, and then you've got the bunding as well on top of that.
Can I say something? Because I did speak to the flood management officer on Monday. This is what she said to me: no pegging out is planned. They are going ahead. They believe there was a resolution to go ahead. The planning application has gone in. I asked her, because I was not clear, I asked her, could we please put a pause on this until we are clear? And she said, no, they are going ahead.
Objection.
But if I have a resolution now, maybe that would make a difference.
Okay.
According to the original agreement, it should
Well,
be
that
pegged
is,
up first.
Jill has just told you what's happened, so that is irrelevant, what you think happened or what hasn't happened. So the proposal is, precisely, first is we stop it, or what?
It's pegged out.
What's the proposal?
No, we get it pegged out.
It's pegged out before we
We've got a planning application, Colin. We should get the planning application, and we should get it pegged out.
I mean, there's other considerations as well.
And if we're not happy, if what Dave has said is correct, then we should object to the planning application, and we've got some grounds because we're a landowner.
Yeah. But we've also got to think that access to this site. I mean, are they going to come through the park? I mean, it's going to cause horrendous damage with all that heavy machinery. It's all stuff that needs to be considered before I felt that we were going to give the go-ahead, which I know we all agree that something has to be done. I'm not arguing with that, but it needs to be done that obviously the village and the council are happy with.
Have you got it in writing that they agreed to do the pegging out, Richard?
No, I don't know if we have actually.
No, but you say it's been agreed with the pegging out, but where is the evidence?
Yes,
Because
well, there was a meeting down there on a Friday afternoon.
no good.
Just a moment. And all the councillors were invited to attend. The only person who actually responded was because the environment agents had come in, the landowners come in, the tenant was coming, and the only person who responded was Tony and said, I'm sorry, I can't make it. So the councillors had the opportunity to go down there, as I did, with all the people, those people, to see exactly where it was going. And there is no problem at all, because it's 48 days.
Let's not go over that again.
So there you are. So and the agreement was that they would peg it out first.
Well, they're not.
Jill, what motion do you need to...
Yes.
So we'll peg it out first.
What motion do you require?
I would say that they need to pause in their proceedings until
That's
councillors
what I'm trying to say.
have had a chance to see the pegging out. The pegging out must be done, councillors must have a chance to see it, no further actions should be taken until that's happened.
We must see the plan.
You've seen that
It's got no dimensions on it.
Well, that's no good if it's got no dimensions.
This is what
we discussed in November.
I mean,
Yeah, you saw the plan there.
there's that one, and there's a more detailed
That's an
one.
ordnance survey plan.
I don't think, I mean, I'm concerned about pause the operation.
I think the signs are due to up next.
No, there was nothing originally about the signs. That's a
Councillor
late.
Chapel wants the signs up before the next week because he's got funding and they have to be erected. And the signs are telling you where it's going to go, so it's pretty much it's painted.
That's an ordnance survey plan with a football pitch shown on there, and it's clearly that it's on the wasteland. It's not going anywhere near the actual cut area that we've got.
But whereabouts
there's
is
not
the trim
one
trail?
single statement or land mark on there that gives any dimensions or distances from a set, that's a dimension. It's not a set distance from a set point. Which if it's a survey, it should have a survey point and distances marked out from that survey point. It has not got that. All that's got is the size of the culvert, not where it is.
Yeah. Well,
that's a freehand drawing.
So that's
with no directions or distances marked, so it means nothing.
But you can
I can see roughly where it is.
But you can see where the football pitch is.
That's a freehand drawing.
The thing is, Richard, if they've not got put any dimensions on it, they've not dimensioned the football pitch.
There's nothing on there.
You can't say that's correct because there's no dimensions.
Then to agree with.
Can we just go with the motion?
And it should be pegged up before. Can we have
the motion is that we stop or could the whoever it is, environmental agency, pause in their proceedings and peg out the site, peg out the actual culvert, the new culvert, before any further action is taken.
I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with it?
Not
Okay,
at
well
all.
that's fine.
Absolutely not.
So you're going to vote against it, that's fine then.
Yeah, but I mean, you should. The point is, this is quite a big issue for the flooding of this area, and it's 2 years old. So, if Councillor Chapel's been fighting like mad to get funding, if he's got funding from the Environment Agency, the important thing is we make sure it goes in the right place. That doesn't mean it. So what is needed is the lady that's responsible needs to get down here as soon as possible to peg it out so that Dave and anyone else is concerned.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah, but we're not saying pause or stop. We're saying explain.
Peg before work starts.
Peg before work starts, before approval.
Okay, go on then. Yeah, that's acceptable.
Because what we don't want to do is...
That was what was agreed.
Colin.
Right, can we have a proposal?
Yeah, well, we get the formal planning.
Yes,
Paul, I propose that we ask this organisation to peg out the culvert before we agree to works to continue.
Yes, I accept
Can we have a second?
Yes.
Can we have a vote?
Perfectly well.
Show of hands.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's where we were in the
That's what, sorry, Richard?
That's where we were.
No, it wasn't, Richard, it wasn't where we were originally, because you wrote to them and told them that we could go ahead with it, so it wasn't where we were originally. No.
Okay, well look, we've done
Well, never mind, please, I've got a headache.
I've got a headache as
and
well.
I'm going home.
I've got a headache as well.
Right, hang on. So that's
That's all of it. A lot. I'm so sorry, it's a lot, but thank you very much for listening about facilities.
Well done, business for the next meeting.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The lamppost, Marion's lamppost. I'm so sorry, it was added on.
Is that at the top?
Damage. I used the lamppost.
Yeah, it's just the lamppost opposite Aston Hill. There was. Did you find out anything from the police?
Yes, not from the police, but I've got some costings from Sharp.
Yeah, last year a car was set alight on Aston Hill and it came straight across and went into the woods. And it caught fire actually, there was lots of trees. But the lamppost there has been damaged very badly. It's in quite a state actually, so I've got an estimate from the Sharps.
Well, Peter Sharp says it will be at least £500, but that's without me going to, I need to go to UK Power to find out the status of the supply.
Yes.
If the supply is still supplying.
Current sort of thing.
Yeah, or not. So that may be an additional cost.
And we could claim on insurance? So Peter said.
Who's, do we know whose vehicle it was?
No, you see, I think it was just vandals, just set light to it, and so we don't know.
We shouldn't be liable for that. People of this village shouldn't have to pay for a new lamppost when the insurance company surely.
Well, Peter felt that the insurance company might.
I mean, we know who it is. Can we get the insurance company and say, can you do something about our lamppost?
Are we covered?
Yeah, but if we don't know whose car it
No,
was...
that's the problem. They're not insured.
Well,
it must have been having enough plate
So just make the point here, you had a lamppost taken out of New Road, which we need, and you had that done away with, and you want to put one up the bloody hill where nobody is.
Excuse me, I
We want them in the village.
We're going to be expressing interest in that.
Car up one down in New Road. Nobody's going to pay for it.
So we need to explore the cost of the UK Power, put it
I'll check out the insurance situation.
Let's make it safe.
You do need a light post there because of the, it's very dark along there.
Yeah, we need one down New Road as well because it's so dark down there. We walk down there every day.
Okay. What's that? All right. Right, thank you very much. Business for the next meeting then, besides the lamppost. And the date of the next meeting is?
Third or fourth, isn't it?
You're not away yet.
It's the 4th, yeah, the 4th of March.
I don't know where you're going.
4th of March.
I'm afraid I'm easy to live by the time it gets to that bit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Apologies already for that one.
Thank you very much for the public. Meeting's closed.
What about public participation?
That's at the beginning now.
And correspondence. I sent you an email. Did you get it?
Sorry, would you like to tell me who you are?
Yeah, do you want to do it next time?